There comes a moment in every serious man's life, a moment not marked by applause or outward celebration, but by silence, solitude, and an inner reckoning. A moment when the world turns its back, when the applause quiets, when the doubt of others threatens to echo louder than the conviction within. And it is in this moment that a man is given a choice to retreat back into the soft chains of conformity, or to stand tall, alone if necessary, with the fire of consistency burning in his soul. Mark this well. Success does not descend upon the man who waits for approval. Success bows only to the man who has mastered the most sacred of all disciplines, the command over his inner world. You may ask, why is it that some men rise, while others equally talented, equally intelligent fall? It is not by luck. It is not by external validation. It is because one has forged the iron will to remain consistent, even when the shadows mock him. The other, weak in spirit, waits for permission to become great. Understand this: the world does not give you permission to be powerful. You must claim it. And you claim it through repetition, through discipline, through absolute mental sovereignty. There is a divine law at work, which I call the law of mental neutrality. This law states that the mind, unless directed, becomes the servant of fear, chaos, and doubt. Like a ship without a captain, it drifts battered by emotional storms, led astray by the winds of other people's opinions. But when you, the master of your fate, seize the wheel and take control of the rudder, when you choose consistency in your thoughts, consistency in your habits, consistency in your purpose, then the mind becomes your most loyal ally, not a wandering servant of fear, but a sword of precision, a tool of victory. If you do not rule your mind will rule you. Consistency is the discipline of kings. The men who have bent history to their will, who have built empires, industries, legacies, were not guided by emotion, they were guided by vision. And they returned to that vision, day after day, hour after hour, regardless of who clapped for them, regardless of whether the crowds believed. The greatest lie sold to men is that they must feel inspired to act number. The truth is far more powerful. The man who acts consistently creates inspiration. He becomes the source of power, not its beggar. You were not born to be governed by moods. You were not created to live at the mercy of circumstance. You are the sovereign of your own internal kingdom. And the first law of that kingdom must be this: I will remain consistent in my purpose even if the world goes silent. Let us define definiteness of purpose. For without this cornerstone, consistency is blind. Definiteness of purpose is the unwavering clarity of why you exist. It is the seed from which all greatness grows. A man who has not defined his purpose is a man easily swayed, easily broken. But a man who has decided, who has chosen with full clarity the vision he will serve, becomes immovable. His habits become his temple, his discipline, his shield, his consistency, his weapon. And how does one remain consistent in a world that profits from your distraction? Through self-discipline, through mastery of thought before action, through reflection before reaction. Self-discipline is not punishment. It is liberation. It is the declaration that you will no longer be pulled by the primitive forces of emotion, that you will no longer act because others expect you to, but because your own higher self commands it. In the quiet hours, when the work is invisible, when no one claps, when no one calls your name, that is when champions are forged. That is where true wealth, true success, true mastery is born. It is not the man who performs once in public, but the man who repeats his rituals in private, again and again, who earns the right to rise. You do not need the world's belief to persist. You need your own. Let us examine another sacred principle: autosuggestion. This is the act of commanding the subconscious mind by planting the seed of consistent thought. If every morning you rise and say, I am the master of my thoughts, I am unmoved by doubt, I am consistent even when no one watches, then you begin to carve that truth into the very architecture of your being. The mind does not resist repetition. The subconscious accepts whatever is fed to it with emotion and frequency. Feed it weakness, and weakness becomes your master. Feed it strength, and you become invincible. I will tell you now, there will be days when the weight is heavy, when progress is invisible, when you are tempted to believe that your efforts are in vain. But hear this with the full force of truth: there is no wasted discipline. Every act of consistency, no matter how small, compounds. Every drop becomes a flood. Every step becomes momentum. And those who laugh now will kneel later, not in ridicule, but in awe. Why does emotional detachment lead to greatness? Because he who is emotionally reactive is the slave of the moment, but he who is emotionally detached has access to the eternal. He is not tossed by waves, he commands them. He does not respond with panic, he responds with power. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is strength. It is the ability to see the battlefield with clarity, to act based on vision, not vengeance, to move from principle, not pressure. When the crowd mocks, detach. When the world doubts, detach. When fear whispers, detach. And return always to the discipline, to the work, to the habits that will sculpt your destiny. You will hear voices internal and external that ask, why are you doing this? And your answer must not be an explanation. It must be a declaration. Because I said I would. Because you are a man of decision. Because your identity is not swayed by applause or absence thereof. Because your integrity is forged in the private places no one sees. Because you have burned the bridges behind you and left no door open to retreat. Success is not a mystery. It is not given. It is earned through the unrelenting application of simple disciplines, practiced daily, regardless of mood, regardless of motivation. The man who persists when others stop, the man who walks when others sit, that man wins. Let the doubters doubt. Let the world sleep. Let the average mock your obsession. But you stay the course, build your temple brick by brick, one act of consistency at a time, one disciplined thought at a time, one detached choice at a time. This is the path of kings. What is the greatest tragedy of man? It is not failure. It is inconsistency. For failure teaches, failure reveals, but inconsistency deceives it, whispers false comfort, and steals from you the only currency you possess, time. Inconsistency is the silent killer of ambition, for it convinces the man that he can stop and still arrive, that he can rest before victory is won, that he can break his vow to himself and suffer no consequence. But hear this, and never forget it. Every time you do what you said you would not, or fail to do what you said you would, you weaken the bridge between your will and your world. You fracture the force that bends the universe to your desire. Consistency is the cement of character. It is what binds thought to result, desire to destiny. Let us now speak of accurate thinking. The man who has not mastered his thoughts is governed by lies, his own and others. Accurate thinking is the ability to strip emotion from fact, to separate fear from truth, to confront reality as it is, not as you wish it were. It is a sacred skill, cultivated only by those who have learned to observe without reacting, who have trained their minds to respond, not to impulsive emotion, but to principle and reason. This is why consistency is impossible for the emotionally weak, because without accurate thinking, a man cannot trust his own mind. He becomes prey to every whim, every doubt, every subtle persuasion of the environment. One moment he is fire, the next he is ash. One day he believes, the next he questions. 1 hour he acts with conviction, and the next he waits for reassurance. And all the while, time marches forward, indifferent to his confusion. But the man who builds his life on accurate thinking, who feeds his mind daily with truth, who watches his thoughts the way a general watches enemy movement, becomes untouchable. He sees through illusion. He does not act out of emotional addiction. He acts because he has decided, and he does so again and again and again, not for show, not for approval, but because he is building something eternal. You must understand this. There is a war inside you, a war between the lower self and the higher self. The lower self seeks comfort, applause, distraction, pleasure. It reacts, it complains, it waits. But the higher self, your true self, commands. It disciplines, it observes, it chooses. Consistency is the language of the higher self. Every time you rise at the hour you promised, when no one is watching, your higher self wins. Every time you choose silence over impulsive reaction, your higher self wins. Every time you work through boredom, rejection, pain, or loneliness, your higher self expands. And over time, if you are consistent, the lower self grows weaker. It loses its voice. It becomes background noise, a whisper you no longer obey. There is power in repetition, for repetition rewires the mind. The same way a river carves a canyon, consistent action sculpts identity. Do not underestimate the force of simple habits done with precision. You do not need motivation. You need to decide, and then repeat that decision in action, no matter what feeling arises. The world has lied to you. You were told to follow your feelings. But the truth is this: feelings follow your focus, and focus follows your philosophy. Master your philosophy. Master your life. You were not born to drift. You were born to direct. But direction requires dominion over your own inner weather. Your moods are not to be trusted. Your emotions are not laws, they are passing clouds. And the man who anchors his purpose to the ever-shifting winds of emotion will never know peace nor power. To command your world, you must first command yourself, not by suppression, but by transformation. Not by pretending emotions do not exist, but by refusing to let them rule you. Detachment, then, is not coldness, it is clarity. It is seeing the storm and choosing stillness. It is feeling the doubt and choosing faith. It is hearing the mockery and choosing silence. It is knowing who you are and acting from that knowledge, not from the noise around you. And here lies the greatest secret. When you detach from the need for external belief, you awaken your own belief. When you stop chasing validation, you become your own source of certainty. And when you become your own source, you become unstoppable. You will be tested, you will be ignored, you will be misunderstood, but none of that matters. The opinion of others does not alter the law of cause and effect. You plant, you water, you wait, and the harvest comes. Not in their time, but in yours. The seed does not require applause to grow. It requires care, attention, consistency. When the world doubts you, that is your advantage. When they turn away, that is your freedom. When they say nothing, that is your moment. Because it is in that silence that the inner voice becomes loud. The voice that says, keep going, keep showing up, keep refining, keep believing. There is no competition for the man who is consistent, because most men stop. Most men wait. Most men need the crowd. But you are being called to become rare. And rarity is not found in talent. It is found in repetition, the ability to do what is hard, over and over without applause, until it becomes easy, until it becomes yours. Let the others chase quick results. Let them trade discipline for dopamine. Let them seek comfort over conquest. But you be still, be focused, be consistent. And you will win not because the world gave you permission, but because you gave yourself no other option. And now, let us walk deeper still, into the furnace where resolve is forged into permanence, where men are stripped of delusion and confronted with the immortal law. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you wish, not what you post, not what you dream, but what you do consistently, in silence, without applause. The world crowns those who move in rhythm with principle, not with preference. You must understand the eternal hierarchy. Principle governs thought. Thought governs feeling. Feeling governs action. And repeated action forges destiny. Break the chain anywhere, and you fall. But align them, and you ascend. And the first step of this chain principle begins with your willingness to commit to what is hard, what is lonely, what is thankless, until what is invisible becomes undeniable. Consistency without clarity is chaos. That is why the definiteness of purpose must be the center of your being. You must know what you want with such depth, such conviction, such specificity, that every action you take is either a step toward it or a betrayal of it. There is no middle ground. There is no neutrality in the pursuit of greatness. You are either moving forward or you are decaying. What is definiteness of purpose? It is the decision to give your life meaning beyond survival. It is the internal contract you sign with your higher self that says, this is who I will become. This is what I will build. This is the legacy I will leave. And once you sign that contract, every excuse becomes treason. Every delay becomes betrayal. Every deviation becomes an act of self-sabotage. You either honor the contract with your future or you break it for the comfort of the present. The masses live by accident. The great live by design. You must design your days to reflect your destiny. That means you do not wait for the perfect time. You do not adjust your consistency based on how you feel or how others treat you. You set the standard, and you rise to it every single day. You do not negotiate with mediocrity. You do not entertain distractions. You are not available for emotional indulgence, for the cheap approval of the crowd, for the fleeting pleasure of deviation. Your life is a mission, and you will move through it with the focused precision of a man possessed by a vision greater than himself. There is no arrival. There is no made it. There is only this. Did you execute today what your future demands of you? Did you stand guard at the gate of your mind? Did you feed your soul discipline or excuses? Did you repeat the actions that move the needle forward? Because success is not a mystery. It is a math. Discipline plus repetition plus time equals mastery. That is the formula. It has never changed. It has no loophole, no shortcut, no hack. And yet, this formula terrifies the average man. Why? Because it removes the illusion of luck. Because it removes the excuse of external resistance. Because it leaves you alone with your habits, with your thoughts, with your choices and demands that you face the truth. You are either aligned with your destiny or you are delaying it. To be consistent when no one believes in you is not a punishment, it is a purification. It strips you of dependence, it eliminates weakness, it forces you to walk alone so that you may discover the strength you forgot you had. When you are no longer fueled by applause, you are fueled by purpose. When you are no longer pulled by praise, you are pushed by vision. And that, my friend, is where you become dangerous not to others, but to mediocrity itself. You must rise each day with the awareness that your time is not free. Every minute spent in hesitation, in doubt, in emotional reaction is a withdrawal from your future. You are either investing in your becoming or you are paying the price for your passivity. Time is not a river you can dip into twice. It is a fire that consumes whatever you give it, and only those who offer it intention will be shaped by it rather than scorched. Let us speak now of personal initiative, the ability to act without being told, to move without being pushed, to initiate without the crutch of motivation. This is the mark of those who lead themselves, who build empires in silence. Waiting is weakness. Hoping is weakness. Asking for signs, validation, or consensus weakness. The strong decide. They move. They create the sign through their action. They do not knock on opportunity's door. They build the door and walk through it. And consistency is the currency by which that door is built. Brick by brick, layer by layer, through boring days, through tired days, through rejected days, through invisible days, you build. You lay the brick. And one day, without warning, the world sees what you've been building in silence. But by then, you will no longer need their applause, because you will have already become the man your future requires. And now, let us return to detachment. The mastery of this principle will separate you from the average man more than any skill or knowledge ever could. Detachment is the refusal to let your internal state be dictated by your external environment. It is the conscious decision to respond rather than react, the power to say, this situation is not in control, I am. Detachment is not weakness. It is not aloofness. It is control. It is calmness in the eye of the storm. It is the poise of a mind trained to focus on principle rather than provocation. When the world screams for your reaction, detachment whispers, hold. And in that pause, in that sacred breath, you reclaim your power. The man who is detached is the most dangerous man alive. He cannot be baited. He cannot be broken. He cannot be swayed by trends, insulted by critics, or enslaved by praise. His power does not fluctuate with opinion. His value is not measured by response. He acts from conviction. He builds from vision. He sustains from discipline. And this, more than anything else, is what consistency requires. The ability to separate your identity from external circumstances. To be the same man when no one is looking. To be the same man when everyone is watching. To do the work, whether it's raining or shining, whether you're loved or ignored, whether the world sings your name or forgets you exist. That man, that immutable man wins. Every time. You must understand, every day that you choose discipline over distraction, detachment over emotional chaos, clarity over confusion, you are sharpening the blade of your mind. And that blade, when directed by definiteness of purpose, can cut through every obstacle the world places before you. But it must be sharpened daily, not occasionally, not when convenient, daily. The world worships the spectacle but forgets the silence. They celebrate the harvest but ignore the season of unseen planting. But you, if you are to rise above the common order of men, must learn to love the silence, to treasure the days no one sees, to embrace the nights when doubt knocks but you keep moving anyway, because that is where power lives, not in the noise, but in the quiet commitment to show up regardless. Every time you act without applause, you train the subconscious to respect you. Let that sink in. The man who follows through on what he says without external reward becomes sovereign over his own mind. And when your subconscious trusts you, it opens the gates of power, clarity, energy, and focus. But when you break your word to yourself, even in secret, you fracture the alliance between thought and action. And success flees from self-betrayal. Autosuggestion, then, is not just affirmation. It is a weapon, a system, a discipline of feeding your mind daily with thoughts aligned with your future. You must speak to yourself as a general speaks to his army, with precision, with clarity, with authority. You do not whisper hopes. You declare commands. You say, I am consistent even when I am tired. I am disciplined even when I am unseen. I am unmoved by praise or rejection. I am guided by purpose, not preference. I do not wait. I do not ask. I do not hope. I build relentlessly, silently, powerfully. And you repeat it until your inner world believes it, until doubt loses its grip, until fear becomes irrelevant, until every cell in your body becomes an extension of your will. That is how you become unstoppable, not through motivation, but through inner agreement, not through circumstance, but through spiritual authority. Do you know what makes a man terrifying to the forces of mediocrity? It is not his talent, it is not his appearance. It is not even his intelligence. It is his ability to keep moving forward when there is no visible reward. It is his ability to act without feedback, to build without support, to stay loyal to his mission even when the world calls him delusional. That kind of man cannot be negotiated with. He cannot be delayed. He cannot be bought, distracted, or intimidated, because he is not acting for the world. He is acting for a vision planted deep within his soul, a vision so real to him it would be a betrayal to abandon it. That is the power of inner conviction. That is the product of unbreakable consistency. Let us now speak of one final truth. Success, real success, is internal before it is external. The world may applaud results, but the wise man knows that the result is just a reflection of unseen disciplines, of choices made in solitude, of emotions overcome in silence, of temptations rejected in private. That is the architecture of greatness, built brick by brick in places no one claps for. So when they say, you've changed, say, yes, I've evolved. When they say, you're too obsessed, say, I'm aligned. When they say, you're wasting your time, say, I am investing in what you can't yet see. And when they stop believing in you, smile, because now you are finally free. Free from expectation, free from performance, free from the cage of approval. And in that freedom, you become something the world rarely meets: a man who keeps his word to himself. From this day forward, let this be your standard. I will not break my consistency. I will not betray my discipline. I will not abandon my higher self to indulge a temporary feeling. I will show up. I will train my mind. I will control my emotions. I will take initiative. I will walk forward when others hesitate. I will persist when others fold. I will build when others mock. I will focus when others wander. I will act when others doubt. And I will win not by force, but by consistency. Because when the applause fades, when the lights dim, when the audience leaves, only the consistent man remains. Still building, still mastering, still rising, quietly, relentlessly, inevitably. You are that man. Become him. You must never forget, consistency is not for the faint-hearted. It is not for those who need hand-holding or emotional rescue. It is for those who have tasted the bitter flavor of mediocrity and sworn never to return. It is for those who have decided once and for all that they would rather walk alone in discipline than dance in the crowd of the undisciplined. You see, there is a seduction in the voice of the world. It will whisper, rest, take a day off, you've done enough. It will say, no one's watching, what does it matter? And if you listen long enough, if you entertain that soft, subtle comfort, you will rot not externally, but internally. And the decay of discipline is the beginning of death, not of the body, but of the spirit. That is why you must become ruthless with your focus. You must become intolerant of your own laziness. You must become disgusted by your own excuses. Not because you hate yourself, but because you love the man you are becoming, because you respect him enough to defend him from the enemy within. Let it be known, the highest form of self-respect is consistency. It is not in how you speak to others. It is not in how you dress. It is in whether or not you can look in the mirror each night and say, I did what I said I would do. That is the foundation of power. That is the root of confidence, not fake bravado, not external validation, but the quiet, unshakable knowing that you are in control of yourself. And when you are in control of yourself, the world no longer controls you. You must not merely understand emotional detachment, you must become it. You must walk through the fire without reaching for escape. You must face rejection, failure, disappointment, and remain. Remain consistent, remain disciplined, remain calm. Why? Because the storms are temporary, but your purpose is eternal. Emotion is the noise, vision is the signal, and the man who remains loyal to the signal becomes untouchable. He sees through provocation. He is unmoved by opinions. He is not high on praise nor low on criticism. He simply does the work. And in a world addicted to emotional swings, the calm man becomes king. I ask you now, what would happen if you remained consistent for 1 year? What would shift if you honored your morning routine for 365 days without fail? What kind of mind would you possess if you meditated, trained, worked, read, wrote, built, led every single day, regardless of circumstance? What would your body look like? What would your bank account look like? What kind of clarity would shine from your eyes? The truth is this: you already know. You've seen glimpses of it in your moments of discipline. You've tasted it in seasons of focus, but you've let feelings interfere. You've let inconsistency steal what was rightfully yours. You've allowed temporary setbacks to dictate permanent outcomes. No more. From this moment forward, inconsistency is your enemy. Emotional reactivity is your enemy. Distraction, doubt, procrastination, they are not quirks. They are poison. And if you allow them to live, they will devour everything noble within you. They will rob you of your destiny, and they will do it slowly, so slowly you won't even notice the theft until you're empty. But the consistent man sees them coming. He builds systems to guard his mind. He creates rules to protect his time. He says no more than he says yes. He rises before the world demands his attention. He works before the world approves of his effort. He gives before anyone recognizes his value. And because of this, because of his consistency, he cannot be stopped. Let the others trade their mornings for sleep. Let them chase fleeting highs. Let them drown in distractions, in comfort, in emotional indulgence. But not you. You are building a cathedral of character. You are constructing a legacy not made of likes and noise, but of impact, integrity, and immovable truth. And when the day comes, because it will come when the world suddenly discovers you, when they say, "Where did this man come from?" you will already know the answer. You came from the shadows, from the silence, from the cold mornings and the late nights, from the days no one believed and you acted anyway, from the hours no one saw and you built anyway, from the pain no one knew and you endured anyway. That is the origin story of every man who masters his mind, who detaches from the circus of emotion, who becomes consistent in a world of chaos. And so I leave you with this eternal command burned into your consciousness: be consistent when it's boring. Be consistent when it's lonely. Be consistent when you're tired, disrespected, mocked, forgotten. Be consistent when no one claps, when no one watches, when no one understands. Be consistent because the future belongs to the man who refuses to stop. Be consistent because your destiny demands it. Be consistent because your word is law. Be consistent, especially when no one believes in you, because that is the very moment the universe begins to. Then we press on without pause, without compromise, into the heart of what separates the ordinary from the immortal. The man who masters consistency is no longer at the mercy of the world. He becomes the architect of it. He no longer waits for the right mood, the perfect alignment of stars, the nod from his peers. He acts because action is now identity. He moves because motion is now law. He builds because creation has become his nature. Understand this: the average man crumbles in the absence of encouragement. He needs a cheerleader, he needs comfort, he needs reassurance, he cannot move without applause, and so he never truly moves. He waits, he delays, he bargains with time, but time does not bargain. Time respects only the man who respects himself. And how does a man show respect for his own soul? Not through words, not through declarations, but through consistent execution, through rising when the world sleeps, through building when the world parties, through listening inward while the world screams outward. Discipline is the voice of self-respect made visible. This world is full of thinkers, of dreamers, of planners and planners of plans. But action repeated, relentless, emotionless action is rare. That is why greatness is rare. Because most men prefer thought over transformation. They want the result without the repetition. They want the destination without the discipline. But you were not built for ease. You were built for mastery. And mastery is earned through hours, through scars, through unseen effort, through consistency so firm that not even doubt can penetrate it. Do not measure your worth by what you feel. Feelings are weather. They come, they go. But principle is the mountain beneath the clouds. It does not move. It does not bend to mood. And your life must become principle-driven, not emotion-driven. Do not ask, do I feel like it? Ask, is this aligned with who I said I would become? The gap between who you are and who you wish to be is not filled with talent. It is filled with consistency. Let us now speak of something few understand: momentum. Momentum is not given. It is created slowly, painfully, through repetition. You do not wait for motivation to strike. You become the generator of it. You move even when it hurts. You push when your mind screams stop. You act not from desire, but from devotion. And then slowly the world begins to shift. Doors open, opportunities appear, coincidences align, but they are not miracles. They are rewards for the man who refused to break. The universe does not respond to wishers. It responds to warriors, those who show up whether it rains or shines, those who operate above emotion, those who have decided and who reinforce that decision with action every hour of every day. And so I ask you again, what do you want? Not superficially, not the answer you give to look noble. What do you really want? Do you want mastery over your craft, freedom in your life, control over your time, power over your mind? Then prove it. Not in speech, not in sentiment, in action. Repeated action, consistent action, unwavering action. Because the world bows only to one thing: discipline executed over time. Not charisma, not potential, not even talent. Discipline. And discipline only becomes divine when it is married to consistency. From this moment, let the old self die, the self that waited, that questioned, that negotiated with weakness. Let him burn, and from those ashes, let a new man emerge. A man who acts without needing permission. A man who walks through doubt without slowing. A man whose word to himself is as sacred as breath. You do not need to feel ready. You need only to be consistent. You do not need their praise. You need only to be consistent. You do not need everything figured out. You need only to be consistent, because consistency reveals what clarity cannot. Consistency uncovers strength you didn't know you had. It builds habits that work when your mind doesn't. It creates momentum that carries you when willpower fades. It becomes your shield, your sword, your sanctuary. And here's the final truth. The man who is consistent long enough becomes a law of nature. He becomes gravity. He becomes inevitable. And when the world finally turns its head to look, it will say, where did he come from? And the answer will be written not in your words, but in your habits, not in your dreams, but in your discipline, not in your talent, but in your unwavering, unshakable, relentless consistency. So do not stop. Not when it's hard, not when it's quiet, not when you're tired, not when they laugh, not when they forget you, not when they doubt you, especially not when they doubt you, because you are not here to be seen. You are here to build. And when the time is right, the world will not just see you, it will feel you. Consistent, calm, unstoppable. No hesitation, no retreat, no turning back. The path of consistency demands not only repetition, but reverence for the very act of showing up, especially when the body aches, when the mind resists, when the soul doubts, because it is in those moments, not the easy ones, that destiny is forged. Let others chase motivation, the sugar of the spirit, but you're here for nourishment. You're here to become iron. The world does not owe you inspiration. The world owes you nothing. And the moment you accept that truth, a new form of power is born inside of you. Because you stop waiting, you stop begging, you stop relying on emotional highs to act. You begin moving from a deeper source, something beneath the surface, deeper than emotion, deeper than logic, deeper than praise. You begin moving from identity. The consistent man does not act for something, he acts from something. His actions are not negotiations, they are declarations. Each repetition is a reaffirmation of who he is becoming. He doesn't ask, what result will this bring me today? He says, what identity will this reinforce in me forever? The weak man chases outcomes. The powerful man forges identity. And that identity is made not in bursts, but in rhythm. Daily, hourly, silently, powerfully. And here lies a truth the masses will never accept. The man who practices his principles in the dark becomes the man who dominates in the light. While others watch, you must build. While others scroll, you must study. While others react, you must respond. While others seek attention, you must seek alignment. Because one day, the veil will lift, and the hidden will be seen. And when that day comes, you will not need to shout, you will not need to announce your arrival. The work will speak, the habits will echo, the results will thunder. But to get there, you must pay the toll. The toll is boredom. The toll is rejection. The toll is early mornings and lonely evenings. The toll is showing up when it doesn't make sense, when it doesn't feel good, when no one notices, when the applause has dried up, when the spotlight has turned elsewhere. That's when the real ones rise. That's when the inner elite is formed. You do not need intensity for a day. You need resolve for a decade. You do not need inspiration for a week. You need devotion for a lifetime. And if you are to join the rare few who master themselves, you must learn to love the process more than the promise. You must learn to fall in love with discipline itself, not because of what it gives you, but because of who it makes you. This is the higher path. This is the path walked by warriors of the spirit, those who have slain the child within that cries for comfort and crowned the sovereign who commands with clarity. This is the path that demands stillness in chaos, precision in repetition, faith without evidence, and fire without fuel. You must stop making decisions based on feeling. Feeling is fleeting. One moment it lifts, the next it vanishes. If you are to rise above the common order, you must begin choosing based on commitment. Not emotion, not convenience, not consensus. Commitment. The commitment you made to yourself in moments of vision, in moments of clarity, in moments when the higher voice within you whispered, "This is who you are." And that voice, that sacred voice, must become louder than all others, louder than fear, louder than fatigue, louder than failure. Do not seek consistency as a tactic. Become it as a way of being. Let your breath become discipline. Let your footsteps become purpose. Let your routines become ritual. Let your silence become strategy. Let your stillness become strength. And let every hour of every day be a tribute to the future you are constructing, not just with words, not just with thoughts, but with unbreakable execution. This is what it means to be self-made, not that you built a business or achieved recognition or amassed wealth, but that you became the kind of man who could trust himself with power. The kind of man who cannot be bought, who cannot be broken, who cannot be moved by wind or waves. The kind of man whose mind is a fortress and whose actions are a hammer that shapes reality. And how is that man built? Through consistency. One act, one thought, one choice at a time. Again, and again, and again, until the man becomes the law, until his habits are prophecy, until his mind no longer asks, should I, but simply says, I must. This is not theory. This is not philosophy alone. This is a command. If you wish to rise, if you truly wish to become unshakable, then you must live this. No one will save you. No one will do it for you. No one is coming to hand you the crown. You must become the king of your own inner empire. You must conquer the part of you that wants rest, that wants escape, that wants comfort at the cost of character. You must kill that part, not gently, not slowly, ruthlessly, because greatness does not negotiate. Discipline does not beg. Success does not delay. You either rise now or you rot waiting. So rise. Rise and choose clarity. Rise and choose stillness. Rise and choose structure. Rise and choose repetition. Rise and choose detachment. Rise and choose the lonely path. Rise and choose consistency. Even when no one believes in you, especially when no one believes in you, because it is in that moment when no eyes are watching, when no voices cheer, that you become the one who decides how this story ends. You must now understand, this is not just a speech. It is not a collection of phrases. It is not a motivation to be remembered. This is your reprogramming. This is your realignment with the truth that was in you from the beginning, but buried beneath noise, doubt, indulgence, and fear. The truth that you were born not for comfort, not for applause, not for conformity, but for command. And the door to that command is not a miracle. It is a choice repeated until it becomes unbreakable law within you. No man becomes disciplined by desire alone. He becomes disciplined by refusing to betray himself. He becomes consistent by realizing that the pain of effort is infinitely lighter than the regret of potential abandon. That the discipline he chooses today is the freedom he earns tomorrow. That every act of obedience to principle is a blow struck against chaos. And you must strike, not once, not twice, but forever. Because there is no final day. There is no finish line. There is no moment where the work is done. The truly disciplined man does not seek completion. He seeks alignment. He does not count the days until he is free. He lives each day as the price of freedom. And in that mindset, there is peace. Not the soft peace of idleness, but the warrior's peace, the peace of knowing that nothing owns him, not fear, not hunger, not weakness, not desire, because he has owned himself. You are not a slave to doubt. You are not the victim of your emotions. You are not the echo of others' beliefs. You are the master craftsman of your soul, and your soul is shaped by one tool, habit. The chisel is consistency. The hammer is discipline. The blueprint is purpose. And the fire that hardens it all is detachment. You must move without needing to feel. You must persist without requiring reward. You must become a law unto yourself. When the sun rises, so do you. When the wind blows, you do not bend. When the crowd jeers, you do not flinch. You act because the action itself is the altar at which your higher self is built. Others will ask how you changed. They will ask what system, what mentor, what trick you discovered. They will not understand that the answer was never in the world. It was in the mirror. It was in the moment you decided to stop waiting. The moment you committed not just to act, but to never stop acting. And from that moment, everything changed. Because you no longer needed results to keep going. You no longer needed witnesses to justify your effort. You no longer sought shortcuts, hacks, applause, or convenience. You chose consistency. And in that choice, you claimed your crown. The crown is not gold. It is not handed to you. It is the invisible crown of sovereignty worn only by those who have conquered their own inconsistency, who have silenced the inner child, who have risen day after day, with no reward but the echo of their own voice saying, "I did it again." And that voice, over time, becomes thunder. That thunder becomes presence. That presence becomes power. And that power becomes legacy. The consistent man does not die, he multiplies. His impact is generational. His discipline becomes legend. His name, once forgotten, is remembered forever. Not because of what he gained, but because of what he became. So now, as we approach the end of this journey, understand there is no end. The speech may close, but your command must continue. The page may fall silent, but your resolve must rise in its place. What you do after this moment defines everything. What you repeat in the dark becomes the reality you live in the light. What you execute when no one is watching becomes the foundation of your empire. Do not wait for permission. Do not hope for signs. Do not seek safety. Burn the bridge. Burn the exit. Burn the backup plan. Decide. Decide to become consistent. Decide to become disciplined. Decide to become dangerous to weakness, to distraction, to mediocrity. Decide to become what this world rarely sees, a man whose soul is forged by the fire of follow-through. And do not just decide once. Decide every morning. Decide every hour. Decide every moment you feel tired, distracted, disrespected, forgotten. Decide again, and again, and again, because consistency is not a feeling. It is not a phase. It is a vow. And the man who keeps his vow when no one believes in him becomes the man the world cannot ignore. You are that man. Now prove it. Every day, every hour, every moment. Be consistent, even when no one believes in you. Especially when no one believes in you, because that is when the legend begins. And now it is your turn to live it.